We're gonna give you the quickest fixes for you to increase your bench press, and we're gonna start right now. I'm Olympic strength coach Dane Miller, and I've coached multiple different athletes at nearly a dozen world championships, and I'm about to leave to go coach at my second straight Olympics. And one of the biggest factors that I see with Olympians, with professional football players, with athletes that are trying to get to that world-class level is they all actually have really strong bench presses. When we're looking at increasing the bench press, first we gotta start off with just a nice, strong warm-up, okay? And I actually like doing part of our GS warm-up here where we're gonna do a split squat with a thoracic rotation. Try and focus on going to 180 degrees right here, okay? So let's go each side, try and loosen up that upper back. Now, when we're talking about the bench press, and the exercises that you guys are gonna see, you're gonna see, I wanna say it's like 12 to 15 movements today. We're gonna try and rip through this. We're gonna show you the zones of where this is gonna increase the bench press and even what you can think about. Now, I'm gonna try and loosen up my elbows. What I like to think through when we see the bench, there's 4 aspects. 1, death off the chest, okay? 2, mid-range. 3, lockout. 4, volume. So that's how we're gonna go about doing this. When I have an athlete who dies right off the chest, okay, typically we'll see them bring that bar down, 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 and then they sort of just collapse and they come forward. So their upper back dies, they don't have that foundation, which is where this movement comes into place. They have to actually focus on, even doing like a simple band pull apart, squeezing that upper back. So that's where it can be very effective. Now, I'm gonna demonstrate here on the bench a couple different factors that you can use to increase the strength right off the chest. Typically, even a lot of football players will bring that bar down, and then when they collapse, that shows us that they're weak from here to here. And that's gonna lead to some shoulder problems when they're playing. If we have a linebacker who is weak from the chest to mid-range, they might get hit by an offensive lineman and end up really injuring their shoulder because they can't handle that stress. So we need to increase their bench, to increase their shoulder strength, to increase their shoulder integrity. So I'm gonna demonstrate quickly here what that might look like. So they come down, they go here, and they go, bang, and they can't get the bar up. Okay, so the first exercise I'm gonna give you is going to be a slow and controlled eccentric into a double bounce. So we might do this for like 4 to 6 reps because it is really freaking challenging. So it would look like this. Get set, okay? Take this off and we go like 1, 2, 3, up. 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 Okay, so that's the first exercise that you can use. Slow eccentric double bounce. Absolutely freaking phenomenal for increasing that strength right off the chest. You might need to do that for like 6 to 8 straight weeks. Now, the next movement, we're gonna get a lot of hate, okay? But when we think about here, okay, if we have an athlete who either collapses, okay, when they get down to right off their chest, they sort of rotate forward. We might also see they rotate here, which is typically gonna really show us that their shoulders are weak. And we have other athletes that get here and they lose it this way. Okay, so they come down and they plop forward. Okay, so what that shows us is I've actually seen brachioradialis weakness in relation to the co-contraction of the tricep. So their elbow joint cannot hold that stability. So the big factor here is, and this is a wild thing, is that when I am training, let's say football players, I actually did this last night with our guys, we will actually superset a hammer curl or a Zotman curl with a bench press. And the reason why I like to do that is because it helps them feel strong through that elbow joint, but then it's also an easy movement for them to recover from the bench in between sets. So that is a little sneaky hack. Now, the reason why I'm telling you that is because if I have an athlete come down and they rotate forward, they're usually losing the elbow here. They're usually losing that elbow stability. So I love to slaughter them with long sets of decline bench, okay? And the reason being is that decline, we can go a little bit heavier than we could on the flat bench. So we can get a little bit more volume, a little bit more mechanical tension with heavier load because the movement has a shorter range of motion. And I think it's important for all of us to realize that doing the decline bench can drastically improve your bench press. So it might look like this, okay? I like to go with a little bit shorter range of motion here, or a little bit more narrow grip. Because of the short range of motion, we come here and come up. Here, up, here, up. And you'll have those athletes, the first time that they start to do a decline, they sort of come here, and then the bar, it's actually hard for me to do. The bar goes towards their belly button, okay? So it's like trying to get them to learn how to really keep their elbows under the bar. Don't let any rotation occur. And one other side benefit here is that because we always are benching, maybe not always, but for the most part, we're benching on a fat bar. So last night we had a fat bar. This decline, we use a fat bar. That also forces a brachioradialis to be a little bit more locked in, which should trigger a little bit more activation from the tricep, which will then lead to better motor patterns. So if we see the death off the chest, we can start with that slow eccentric. You go slow eccentric into a double bounce. You know, if we have done that and it didn't work, we go to the decline bench and we kill them with a lot of volume. And then finally, the last part that we're gonna use to fix their chest position, coming off the chest, we'll do a ton of presses. So this would be on like a hypertrophy day, okay? So if we're inside of our strength training at peak strength, the way we would set this up, the big barbell movements would be done on day 2, on the upper body day. This would be done on the hypertrophy day. Okay, so you'd see this on like day 5, all right? And what this would look like is here, pause, up, pause, up, pause, up, pause, up. And I even like to give them like a little bit of an auditory command, up, up, up. One more, up. Because oftentimes, the guys that die, men and women that die on that bottom position, really struggle with even just pausing dumbbells, okay? And if we can teach them that skill on how to control and pause dumbbells, guess what? Now, their elbow gets more stable. That's either gonna be from the shoulders or the triceps and brachioradialis. So we gotta think through all that when we're trying to increase their strength off their chest. Use those 3 movements. Now we're gonna get into the mid-range. Okay, so we covered right off the chest. The next thing, we're going into the mid-range. Now, the game of the bench press is just constantly balancing. Is this athlete failing off the chest? Is it the mid-range? Does their lockout suck? You know, all of those things. Then getting into the final point of this whole video is the volume. And the thing at the end that we're gonna show you is gonna be sick. Okay, so you've gotta bear with us as we work through these ranges. Now, it goes back to just balancing that. Like 6 to 8 months, you might have someone whose mid-range problem, you know, they have a problem in the mid-range with their shoulders or the triceps, and so you can sort of have the antidote of using dips. And we'll use a ton of dips for 4 to 6 months, like literally every program. So again, going back to peak strength, a lot of people will ask us, like, how long should we be doing an exercise? If you are an athlete, you should bench press literally all of the time, like for almost your entire career, right? You know, yeah, you go in and out with it based off incline bench or dumbbell bench or dips, but like you're basically gonna do it your whole life. Same with dips, you know, same with back squats, same with front squats, all these exercises. So going back to this, the area here that we're gonna be sort of covering is going to be the mid-range. Typically that would look from like right off the chest around like 6 inches here to here. So I'm here and I'm struggling at this point. And this is where it almost looks like you're just running into a wall. So we need to think about acceleration, which will lead into some of the lockout stuff, but we also need to think about stability. Again, this is where we'll see like a baseball player all of the time will sort of rotate here, and this sort of comes forward. They lose the elbow and the shoulder at the same time. A shot putter will sort of use, if they're a right-handed thrower, they sort of favor that side and start to rotate because they're trying to actually like almost finish like they're at the front of the circle. That's a common thing that we see. So if we can use a dip here and do a decent amount of volume where we get here, up, here, up, here, up, here, up. Literally push your dips to like 100 or 200 pounds on the belt. You know, you can actually see, we have one of our plates here left over from last night that Taman didn't clean up, is that we are going to push athletes to get really, really strong at dips so that they can accelerate more through the mid-range. And when the problems arise in the bench press, we're not at these same sticking points. The sticking point in the mid-range might be at 300 for month 0. On month 3, the mid-range sticking point might be at 350. And that's the whole goal that we're playing, is like, you want to move the barrier longer and longer so you can use dips, but you've got to use them weighted, okay, to get them a lot stronger. Now, another movement, if you see that you're consistently failing in the mid-range, is going to be, and I've talked about this in the past on our videos, is that this exercise that I'm about to show is my all-time favorite tricep exercise. And because of the situation, the bench, the angle that we're on, it's gonna slaughter our shoulders as well. And when we can get really, really good at this movement, basically every other pressing movement just gets completely blown up, right? Like it just leads to the moon. And this is going to be a close grip incline. Back in the day, we've got a jailhouse incline bench, literally a jailhouse incline bench. Super steep. We would master a close grip incline, okay? Every single kid in the early days, that's all we were doing was close grip incline. And that's like a 14 to 16 inch grip, okay? And if we can get really good at a 14 to 16 inch grip, now our triceps get blown up because we're at this tighter grip position, okay? They're gonna get super, super lengthened. Our pecs can get lengthened and our shoulders, okay? So we're gonna go like this. Here, we're gonna come down, nice and controlled. Try and get as low as you can, and then up. 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 And I wanna think about like right through here as I'm getting just past my eyeballs. Like that's literally what we always think about, because oftentimes, if you see on a flat bench, kids lose here. Okay, so on the close grip incline, they do the same thing. Okay, so it's like the same sticking point, just in a different angle. So you have to cue them on keeping the elbow under the bar and think, control through this outside part of your tricep, just past the eyeballs, okay? Now, the other interesting point is that if we provide the shelf here, we wanna make sure that we have stability and a good isometric from our grip and from our forearm as we extend. These are things that most people aren't talking about. Biceps, forearm, they can play a role in stability, and that's the key aspect there. So then, okay, after we hammer this, let's say we do some 5 sets of controlled close grip incline, then we're gonna do close grip incline like this. Here, no lockout, rapid, unbroken reps. That's going to elicit a huge response and recruitment of those high threshold motor units. Now, the last thing for the mid-range, okay? This is another one of my all-time favorites that's going to absolutely slaughter your triceps, okay, is going to be a lean away tricep extension. Now, I'm gonna give you 2 bodybuilding exercises today that are on cables that I think are the absolute best cable tricep exercises. I know that's a very niche specific movement pattern, but it is. It's not the Miracle Grow. The Miracle Grow is the best dumbbell. And so what we're gonna look at here, God, I'm sweating, is going to be getting set in this position, okay? And I wanna come forward here. And when I'm here, I wanna go forward, lock out, right here. And all I wanna think about is coming back, all from the elbows, stable through the shoulders, and extend. And I like to think about extending like this, okay? Boom. Now, just keep in mind my right elbow does not lock out. But if I'm extending like this, I get a little bit more pump from the outside of my tricep, and that's the same region that we like to cue our younger athletes on when they're doing the close grip incline. So we can use the bodybuilding movement to establish the mind muscle connection or the pump, and then that pump elicits them to have better coordination. And over a long period of time, theoretically, we might see some more myofibrils grow into the expansion of the sarcoplasm in that specific region. So that's a little bit of physiology, but again, it's just gonna look like this. I like to use this movement because it's still in an overhead position. And there's a lot of research that if we're training the triceps in an overhead position, we get a little bit more activation that's gonna lead to greater strength and size. And remember too, with young kids in the bench press, some of our strongest chicks are high school women that have benched 225 for reps. It takes them a little bit longer to get to that 225 bench press, but when we do more hypertrophy work like this, it can be expedited a little bit faster. So I wanna say we've had probably close to 10 women that can bench over 200 pounds in high school, and a lot of it comes back to hypertrophy movements like this. Here, boom. So sets of 17, you can do this today. Get into the gym and use this as one of those finishers if you struggle with that mid-range. Okay, now we're gonna get to that last spot that's actually related to that range of motion before we get into that final hack. So we got 2 things left, range of motion on the lockout, and then we're gonna get into that last hack to help you guys blow up the bench. The next couple of movements is gonna be all focused on the range of lockout. Typically, if you have a thrower or even most offensive linemen, honestly, even like swimmers, they don't really struggle with lockouts. A little bit more coordinated athletes are able to accelerate really well, okay? And if you're training properly and you have a good system in place, athletes should be able to coordinate very rapidly to work through that lockout. That's exactly what we do inside of Peak Strength. We try to periodize and lay out progressions inside the system. Everything's based off progressions, everything's based off benchmarks and where those athletes are at in their career, okay, based off testing, based off numbers, based off feedback, based off experience that we have here. So if you guys need help with your programming and you want to blow up your bench press, head over to peakstrength.app, the Google Play Store or the Apple iOS Store, and you'll use movements like this. Now, first, if I get into a position here of a push-up and I have a younger athlete, okay, one thing that we might do is just get here, up, there, okay, up. Now notice, I'm pausing. People forget that when I pause on the catch there, that can lead to greater recruitment on the lockout. It's literally like landing on a plyometric. So if you have someone who sucks with their lockout, especially a younger kid, it's one of the fastest ways to teach them better technique is to just catch themselves and pause there. Seriously, like just do that today as a warm-up and you'll see that applied really, really well. Now, the next thing is you get a younger kid and you can just go here. Okay? And then they can go into clap. So you can work like week 1, pause. Week 2, just go explode. Week 3, claps. And then you can see which week do they perform better on. Their next program would be based off of that. So they can learn too, if you see they struggle with the catch, keep doing the catch. Like literally keep doing those catch push-ups for like 5 weeks. It's okay to do things for a long period of time. Now, when they get more advanced, and I've talked about this in the past, because they start to get a little bit lazy with their actual recruitment pattern, I like to get athletes to move to a target. Because once we get benches like up over 275 to 300 for dudes in high school, for chicks in high school, when they start to get over like 175 to 185, you'll start to see them just manipulate those clap push-ups, and I've done this in the past where we do like sort of like a penguin clap push-up, which is okay if you're trying to get a lot of volume in, but if we want to work on the lockout, then I want to work towards a target, okay? When we work towards a target, we have to be more intentional with acceleration. And so we can do a couple different variations here where we'll go here and you can give an auditory command, okay? So if I get here, 1, 2, and a coach can say, go, go, boom. Down, go, boom. Okay, so that's a really, really rapid way to increase their power output through their lockout. Now, the next thing could be touch, get back up. So I'm here, and the other aspect that I want to bring up there, you can see I dropped, came back up. Okay, we actually will test an explosive push-up because we want to see how explosive our athletes are. The other aspect I want to bring up quickly is that if you move these in, it's going to help target the triceps really, really well. So if you have that athlete that when they're benching, they sort of lose it here, that's going to help them increase their tricep strength. And if you have somebody who, let's say it's a discus thrower or somebody that has really weak pecs, you can just widen it a little bit, try and cue them on landing a little bit wider, and then driving as quickly as possible up to the box. Now we're gonna do one more exercise to help you improve your lockout. So one of the other aspects I love about Peak Strength is that we will use targets and benchmarks to sort of like pull athletes through. And I have a personal story here, is that there's an exercise that I loved, and I worked at a bar, and I was 19, 20 years old working as a bouncer, and one of the bouncers was absolutely massive. This dude could bench like 420. His name was Britt. Britt could military press the 110s. And he would tell me all the time, you gotta military press more, you gotta military press more. And I didn't really take him seriously, but when I first benched over 500 pounds, my military press was up around the 120s, okay? And I realized that the more I would push, the dumbbell military press, the more stable I was in all ranges, and most importantly, through the lockout. And the reason being, when we're doing a military press, I want to focus on good control through the shoulder and really, really exaggerate that lockout with the triceps. And because we're in this overhead position, it leads to stronger triceps and in turn carries over really well to the bench. But a lot of us shy away from doing something like the military press for years on end. And that's the one aspect here I want to bring up is like push the military press to like hundreds, literally 100-pound dumbbells for 8 to 10 reps. And when you do that, you will bench well over 400 pounds. So we get in position here, and I want to hold like a semi-neutral, semi-pronated here, boom, up, boom, up, boom, boom, boom. 2 more, boom, boom. So we need to work through this deep position, okay? We don't want this. Get deep here, drive up and control and squeeze in your upper back when you're in that overhead position. That's gonna light everything up. I just had some sweat drop in my eyeballs. That's gonna lead to a better finish on the bench, on that end range. And when we start to incorporate this from a strength aspect, inside peak strength, we would use dumbbell military presses like heavy, okay, on that upper body strength day. So if you need help with your program, head over to peakstrength.app, the Google Play Store, the Apple iOS Store. I'm gonna give you one more hack after you download Peak Strength that will drastically increase your bench press. And we're gonna go into some more physiology, but you're gonna get 3 exercises to do in a row. And you gotta try it today and then comment below what you think. I'm not peacing out because we got one more group. Bye. Okay, so one of the biggest errors I see with everybody in their bench, especially in the realm of sports performance, is that we're not doing enough volume. Oftentimes, football players, swimmers, think about a breaststroker, right? Like breaststrokers will benefit from doing explosive pressing movements, okay? So we've got to think about that and how it's going to transfer to the sport. And that means doing a lot more volume, okay? So I mentioned volume in the beginning, and I'm going to show you a unique way to really develop that volume over a long period of time. If I could take 2 athletes and do, let's say like 10 sets of 5, okay, something like that, a pretty simple rep scheme, and compare this to another athlete in the exact same sport. So let's pretend we have a middle linebacker, and the middle linebacker does 10 sets of 5, and then his weak side linebacker is doing 3 sets of 10, okay, which is a really standard, horrible rep scheme. I can't wait for people to comment down below that they're triggered because I said 3 by 10 is terrible, but it sucks. Anyway, if we go back to this scenario, the strong side linebacker will make way more gains strength-wise and size-wise than the weak side linebacker who's only going to be doing 3 sets of 10. And it's all related back to volume. Intensity doesn't really matter that much as long as volume is equated. If we're getting 100 reps, you're pretty much going to get really good benefits no matter what. But if we can get an athlete to get more volume than their opponent or their counterpart, well, then they're probably going to be the better athlete. Okay, that's literally how it works. So what I like to do to sort of backdoor some volume and to sneak it in as easily as possible is using like a tri-set or a mechanical drop set, depending. And what I wanted you guys to try is I want you to actually try this today. And what we're going to do is we're going to do a feet up clap push-up. So our feet are going to be elevated, okay? And all I'm going to do is 5 reps. That's it. All right, so I'm going to get on this. I'm going to do 5 reps. Then I'm going to do a bodybuilding movement that's going to help me lead to some pre-fatigue, and then I'm going to finish with a strength exercise, and then we're going to walk you through how you can do this today in the gym. And the reason why I want to start with this is I want to light up, really get my nervous system flowing. A lot of people said, what does that even mean? Your nervous system's always working. That's true. But if I do an explosive movement, within 2 to 4 minutes after that exercise is done, my nervous system will be heightened and it'll recruit more effectively. So when I say I'm waking up my nervous system, that is what I mean. And I did want to explain that in the video because we had a couple comments of trolls crying about that. But anyway, let's get back to this. Okay, so I'm going to do push-ups here for 5 reps. Okay, like this. Okay, we can rest like 15 to 20 seconds. I'm going to get here. And this is like my second favorite cable tricep movement. I'm going to get into a kneeling position. This is going to absolutely blow me up. I'm a little worried this is heavy. This should be good. Here, like this. Boom. That's good. Now, triceps are lit up. So now, the third part of this, I'm gonna go over here. I'm gonna walk over to the dumbbell incline bench. Let's just grab like the 70s, and we're gonna do a pause with a neutral. Okay, so I'm here. Pause, up. Pause, up. 2 more. And I've already got a pump. Now, what I recommend doing, okay, is do that 4 times at the end of your upper body workout. 5 there, 12 to 17 on the cable, rest about 20, 30 seconds. First 2 sets with a pause, second 2 sets as quickly as you can go. That's gonna blow up your volume. And the big factor here is that oftentimes, if we do like 3 sets of 4 on bench, heavy, a beginner athlete that's coming in, or somebody who's never been in our system, they'll die by the 3rd set. But if we can drastically increase our volume for about 4 to 8 weeks, after that 8-week time frame, now week 9, now week 10, now week 11, now week 12, that same athlete is able to do like 6 triples or 7 sets of 4 at a very high intensity, and then that's when we see the bench press blow up. So give yourself like 16 to 20 weeks, okay, execute all these different things. Do this volume set today when you get to the gym. You're gonna get a lot stronger, you're gonna increase your bench press, because remember, freaks, if you wanna become a champion, you've always gotta cultivate your power. Peace.